What's up, guys? Welcome to another video, probably the first one I've recorded in, I don't know, a really long time. So apologies if any of this seems kind of crazy. I'm a little rusty when it comes to filming myself here, but before we jump into the video, I know that obviously the title kind of tells you what we're doing on here today. I feel like I owe you all a bit of an explanation, so like I'm gonna give you the, I don't know, maybe 30-second to a minute rundown on what the heck's been going around here. So first thing, Brandon's car. This has been a project on and off for about 2 years now, and this should be nearing wrap up. I'm gonna try and get some good content on the car for you guys. I don't unfortunately have like a build series we're gonna be doing on it just because things were so sporadic and rushed trying to get it together the first time around for Mustang week, which didn't really happen. We'll go into detail at some point, but this is a really crazy build. The first start hopefully is going to be this week. We literally just got the Vortech in recently, so that was like the big key factor. And with the Vortech, it's going to be getting tuned. Well, Corbin Johnson's going to be the one doing the tuning. He does a lot of the work with Fat House Fabrication, if you guys are familiar with them, and their GT350s and GT500s. So that's one of the big projects that we've had going on around here. Next thing on the list, it's not here right now, but the wife's car, it's good running, everything about it's pretty much like dialed in for the most part. There's little things here and there that, you know, we still want to address and touch up on it, but it's great. Hopefully those videos are all basically wrapped up by the time you're seeing this one. Another huge update, I bought this 2020 F250. It's a 6.7 Power Stroke diesel. It's a badass tank of a unit. We call it Tour Tank or Blastoise. Tour Tank's basically Blastoise in German or French or something like that. Just sounds cool because basically it is a tank. I mean, it's huge. I'm having to walk all the way over here for it to even be on the lens, which is like 10-15 feet behind me. Obviously, utility vehicle, the intent there is we can pull the vehicles, the Mustang specifically, not one, but maybe even two when it comes to like going to shows and stuff. So pretty cool to have that thing around. It's very pretty. I've done a couple little things to it, nothing too crazy. Running boards, front valance from a trimmer, and for the most part, it's just stock. I don't really have too many crazy things that I want to do with it, but we might do some cool stuff. I don't know, we'll see. Time will tell on that one. Next up from that, the Yaris used to be parked here. You can see it's oil stain. Sold that unit. 2016 Ford Explorer, that's the wife's car, still around. And then the big sad news here, unfortunately I had an accident with my Mustang back in October, which is probably I don't know, 6 months ago or so now. No, maybe more. But it was a front end accident. It wasn't too bad. They still totaled it. I'm not even going to go into that story, but it's more or less back together. It's running. It's been inspected by Maryland, so it's good to go. Just needs some finishing touches and paint, and then that will be back on the road in no time. Shout out to Bill from CJ's. Now with that out of the way, sorry about that. Just figured I owed you guys at least a small update. I'm sure those that are familiar with the channel are probably like, oh my God, this dude's still alive. So pumped to see him actually make a video for once. So shout out to you guys for staying loyal and hanging out there with me. I know that I'm sporadic when it comes to all this stuff. It's just there's only so much me to go around, you know what I'm saying? So that being said, to anyone that's new to the channel, definitely consider subscribing, you know, staying tuned. I try to share really cool stuff with you guys. It's just obviously limited on when and how much I do that just because of I only have so much time in a day. So let's get into what we're doing today, which I want to show you guys the custom slim fan shrouds that I've been working on. It's been taking about a year to get to this point. We've more or less finished all the designing and everything. So I want to share that with you guys, show you how I go about installing one and how I would recommend doing so. By the time you're seeing this, we pretty much should already have everything situated to where you can order these. I'm going to be doing them in batches of 6 just because that's the agreement between me and the laser cutter who cuts these things for efficiency when it comes to getting them all done. I'm going to give you some information on the fans, kind of tell you a little bit about them, show you the different fans that we can pair with the fan shroud, and then show the comparison between the stock and the slim fans and obviously the space saved and why you want to consider these as an option for your Paxton and Vortech cars. That being said, they can also be used on other vehicles like an NA setup or even a turbo car. We can orient the fans like the opposite of what they are. So if you wanted to flip-flop them for whatever reason, these are purposely oriented the way they are for the Paxton Vortech so that what I determined is pretty much like the optimum clearance for the blower without putting the one fan directly in front of the blower. So if you run like an open blower or a turbo guard, it doesn't take that hot air from the radiator and shove it directly into your blower. So that's for a reason. But yeah, let's get into some of the details on these things. And then if you heard Melissa, she just pulled up. I think she's trying to park. I don't know what she's doing.
But like I said, car runs and drives. It looks great. It just needs a wash.
All right, so here is the slim fan shroud. This is an aluminum piece. It's laser cut. The tabs are folded by like machine bending or whatever. It is 16 gauge aluminum, so it's nice and thin and lightweight without getting, you know, flimsy once everything's bolted together. So the fan holes for these 4 bolts are also laser cut into them. The opening for the fans I think are at 11.5 inches if I remember correctly. We did it just smaller than the 12 inches just in case something were ever to fail on the fan. This blade doesn't basically fall apart and take out your radiator in the process. But yeah, again, everything's laser cut, so it's folded on the top and the bottom. This was a test piece, so there is a slight variance between this and the finished pieces that we'll be doing, and I believe it's just like maybe a 1/4 inch or something like that on the outside edges here. We tapered that in just a little bit. I believe it was because the hoses were too close on one of the aftermarket radiators I was messing with. However, outside of that, this piece is a finished laser cut piece. You can see the logo on the top. They're all going to come with that. These are the SPAL fans. Now there's 2 fans that I've test fit against these, and these are the SPAL, and then the other ones are the Meradyne, which I can show you. All right, so this is the same slim fan, but it's a more finished design piece. On Brandon's car, it does have the Meradyne fans, which these are a little bit taller. So I believe these are like 3 3/16 of an inch or something like that in terms of the overall width. Whereas the SPAL fans over here are a lot more narrow. The motor's nowhere near as tall, so I think it's like 2.5 inches or something like that. I don't remember the exact dimensions. But you can see all that stuff online, the part numbers that I recommend and everything like that for these fans. I'll try and put all that information in the description below for you guys. You're probably wondering, okay, well, why would I do the SPAL fans over the Meradyne if the Meradyne is going to be thicker? The Meradyne puts out a higher CFM. They're rated at 1500 CFM. Each, so the 2 fans should put about 3000 CFM out, whereas the SPAL fans, they're definitely lower profile, but they also have the smaller motors, and as such I believe they put out about 2400 CFM between the 2 of them. So that's just something to keep in mind to kind of like determine whether or not do you want the higher CFM, or are you more worried about like as much clearance as possible. These still should be plenty sufficient in terms of keeping the radiator cold and, you know, being able to not have any overheating problems and everything like that, because the whole point here at the end of the day is to try and minimize how much real estate is used up by the fan. Obviously you guys can go out and see your stock fans on your own cars, but I figured it'd be good to do a good side-by-side comparison so you can really see the difference in depth just off the car before we even get it mounted up, so you can kind of determine how much space, you know, you should realistically be able to save. Okay, so here's a top-down view of both of them, right? You've got the slim fans in the middle there, so 2.5 inches off of the radiator, and you gotta, you know, keep in mind the shroud versus the stock fan, which you can tell is, I think is about 4 inches or so off of the fan. It takes up a ton of space. The big concerns being like the side areas, because this is kind of where the piping runs for the Vortech and Paxton kits. So that's going to be the biggest area to save on. This is beneficial to bring in as well, because this can also rest against the modified upper radiator hose, which if you stress that, then you can also encourage the thermostat housing to leak. So that's nice to get that off as well. And obviously on these, there's like nothing in the middle, so definitely plenty of room. So now that you've seen basically the standard base fan shroud and then Brandon's, which is black, I want to show you mine, which has one of the options that we're offering, which is air baffles. So there's like holes cut into the radiator, and what they do is you put the little rubber flaps over them, and it allows them to open when the car is running at speed, which provides additional airflow across the radiator for optimal cooling. And then the whole point of them is also to suck up against the radiator when the fan's running, so that it helps encourage pulling. Need my keys. So it helps encourage pulling the air through the radiator, again, cooling everything down. Okay, so here's my car setup. Again, same slim fan shroud. These are also, again, the Meradyne fans, and I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but the rubber flaps, we've got 2 down in here. So there, oh, you can kind of see it. But yeah, 1 there, 1 right next to it, and then at the bottom on this side, there's another 2 down there below that fan. Again, the whole point of that is just to provide some additional airflow across it. You'll see some pictures and stuff to get a better idea for how all of them look in terms of all the different options. All right, so with all that stuff out of the way, let's go ahead and get into your guys' favorite part, which is where I tell you how to do stuff, right? This is Tomas's car. He's a local guy with a stock Paxton Vortech kit on the car, and stock front suspension. So that was one of the big things I was looking for, because I really wanted to test fit the slim fan shroud on a standard car, so you guys could get the best understanding of what these will offer you even in stock trim, right? Because Brandon's car, he's got a 10 rib blower kit on his with the aftermarket Mishimoto radiator. I've got an 8 rib blower kit on mine with the aftermarket Mishimoto radiator. Those take up a ton of real estate, so it's not really a great example of what these can do for you all in terms of clearing up real estate and making space under the hood to be able to work with stuff. So we're gonna put all that stuff together on Tomas's car so you all can see just how much more room it makes having this in the car. He also asked me to go ahead and swap out his radiator at the same time because there was an issue with his old one, so that's kind of why they're off the car. And you're probably like, why are you doing all that just to swap the fan? So normally to swap the fan out, you would just need to move some of the piping stuff. So we've got all his piping off over there to get the fan out, and then you should be able to slip the fan in. But the big thing, because this fan is such a slim fan, from what I've been able to determine when it comes to installing them, you do need to unfortunately remove the upper radiator hose. So because of that, you're gonna wanna drain the coolant and get some of that stuff out of the system. But outside of that, it's mostly just a drop-in assembly. So I've already gone ahead and done all that disassembly off camera, just because let's keep the things moving. I almost actually got carried away and finished the job before I recorded any of this for you guys. But so it's all taken apart, right? So once you've got the fan out of the car, the big thing you're going to want to do is get the resistor off the old fan, because we are going to go ahead and retain the resistor in the factory wiring. So this is basically, I'm going to show you how easily you can wire the new fans up to the resistor so that it retains the factory style fan setup. And the point of that is so that you do have a low and high speed activation fan, so that the fans don't kick on full tilt and cause like errors with idling. Because like if you have the fans kick on full tilt and it's expecting a low voltage pull, then you might obviously have a problem there. So all that being said, I'm going to show you how to basically do a plug and play style install on them and keep it super simple. Garbage, not garbage. All right, so I got the main thing we came here for, which was the resistor. If I were you guys, I would recommend looking these over when you get them off, because they are common failure points. These tabs can get burned up, and then you can see the resistors blow. His has definitely got some corrosion on it, but it doesn't look like it's blown, so I feel comfortable using it. But basically, we're just going to cut off the one end of the connector and probably retain as much wiring as we can, because effectively the way we're gonna run these, sometimes like with the Meradyne fans, they had pigtails on the other side. These did not come with them, so they just came with open plugs. So we're just gonna cut these here and here, and then I'll have to extend the wires on this one to reach with these ones. We're gonna essentially bridge them together, power and ground, crimp them to the resistor, and then it all plugs right into the factory wiring harness. So super easy. I'll show you how we do it. I got my wire cutters. We're gonna go ahead and cut this connector off, and pretty straightforward. There you go. You can pull that sheathing off just because, or leave it on if you want. I don't know. There we go. A little bit of sheathing just to make it look nicer, right? Cut this connector off on the fan. Same thing here. Easy peasy. I am going to go ahead and extend these two wires for this fan real quick off camera and come back after that. I just need to make sure that I have enough for them to reach over to here where they're going to join together with the resistor. All right, so we got the wires extended here. Basically this way they all meet up together. I think these are like maybe 16 gauge. I'm not entirely sure, but I only have 18 gauge and then 12 gauge right now. So rather than stepping down potentially, I just went ahead and did the 12 gauge. And then since it's only red, I wrapped the one in brown just so that we knew which one the ground was. So we're gonna get these ready to crimp together. So since these are both just raw red wires, I'm gonna do what I can to try and cover them up. I have some of the sheathing stuff laying around from when I do fuel systems, like the Chinese finger trap stuff, where it gets bigger. But so I'm gonna throw this on there just to kind of give it a cleaner look, just because that's how I be. And then on the other side, I'll probably do like some just black electrical tape to finish it all up. We're gonna go ahead and get these wires exposed. On the SPAL fan, I assume the blue is power and the black is ground. Just makes sense. So we'll get these ones exposed as well. And twist it up here. All right, and then I just need to get, I'm gonna use a butt connector, non-insulated, and then I'll heat shrink over it. Basically just wanna figure out which size is good for these wires to get squeezed together in. Just gonna twist the two powers together, run my butt connector over the wires here, making sure I capture all of them. I got those two power wires run together. Go ahead and crimp the wires into the butt connector. Get them nice and tight on there so it can't come apart. And then we'll do the same thing with the ground here. Get the ground side crimped. Boom. All right, so we have our power and ground butt connectors crimped on, ready to go. And then all we do is take the ground and power from the resistor and do the exact same thing. We'll get the sheathing removed, get them in there, crimped, and then maybe throw some heat shrink on, and they'll be nice and sealed up. So now that these are pretty much ran together, I'm just gonna do a little bit of finishing touches to make it try and make it look nice. A little bit of heat shrink on there right before the ends here. Power wire is in place. Just gotta crimp that guy down. Lastly, get the ground side crimped down. Go ahead and shrink down this heat shrink. And we're pretty much done. All right. Bring this guy as far up as we can. One last thing of heat shrink. Just for that nice finished look, if possible. Boom, we're done with the wiring. So we've got our two power grounds tapped together that meet up with the power ground from the resistor. Tons of wiring, so like might have some excess for sure, but rather have a little bit too much than not enough. So it should nicely go into the car. Tried to clean it up as best we can. Throw a little bit of electrical tape on this little portion here just to kind of cover up that last bit to try and give it that nice finished look. But yeah, it's pretty much ready to go. Now in terms of the fans, these have been test fit against multiple aftermarket radiators, Ford Racing, Boss 02R radiator, Mishimoto. This is an AutoZone radiator. I've put it against an eBay radiator and then also against an OEM radiator. So all the radiators, these fit perfectly. I mean, you really can't ask for too much more the way that these sit right up against the top here. And then it's got a fold on the bottom side too. So you can see there's a little bit of play because the bottom doesn't bolt down, it just slides into the tabs. But that's totally fine, doesn't really cause any issue. I purposely orient the bolts for these fans with the bolt head on the back side and then the length out, and then I use a nylock nut, which all the hardware will be included with the fan shrouds for you guys when you order them. Let's wrap this up, get this in the car, and I'll show you guys kind of the finished result once everything's together and how much more space that there is going to be. All right, so already you can tell how much more space there is down here. You'll be able to kind of see a little bit better as everything comes together, but I want to give you a good look, you know, the space that we're working with before it goes back together. So lots more room so far. Just to reiterate, you know, we are working with the stock front suspension, so that's about our clearance there. Piping should fit through. It might kind of rub a little bit between the two spots, but I think we'll be okay. Worst case scenario, like if you do have it contacting and you're worried about like false knock and things of that sort, you could probably throw some foam in there. But by all accounts, it looks like you know, we'll be good to go to throw all this stuff in with stock front suspension. Ideally, if I were you guys and you were doing a slim fan setup like this, I'd probably go ahead and just get a tubular front radiator support as well, just because it's going to offer you some weight reduction in addition to all the additional space that you can work with. If you want to keep all your stock front suspension, you should be good to go on that regard. With the fan shroud in place, we're just gonna, like I told you guys, it's basically just plug and play. So now this resistor will plug into the factory harness like normal. I'm just gonna run the wiring a little bit because it does have, you know, some good amount of excess wiring, which is nice because now you don't have to worry about the resistor getting squeezed against the blower piping and then potentially causing the resistor to burn out. And then I'm just gonna plug this guy in here. And then we'll just shove this kind of down up underneath so that it's tucked away and not in anybody's way. So you can kind of get creative in terms of how you want to orient your wiring and try and keep it out of the way. The Meradyne had a little bit more space where I was able to zip tie this, but these don't really have quite the same stuff I can work with. But I think actually I can do it right here off the AC line, and that would hold everything nice and in place. All right, so as you can see, I've got the radiator upward a little bit again and kind of starting to come out. There's a small situation with the fan being down there and still having the radiator support there that gets real tight at the bottom. So I want to show you what I'm doing here. So this pipe obviously comes off the blower, and what we're going to do is normally, so this pipe also is what connects underneath of it, and typically they tell you to put this one there. What we're going to do is we're just going to swap these two around, so this one will be here instead of there, and then that will just offer this to be a little bit more narrow, since this is basically right where that fan and radiator support all kind of combine. So in an attempt to snake it all in there nicely, we're just going to swap those two couplers around and it should be able to fit okay. All right guys, the technique I did worked, where we were able to take that narrow coupler and swap that out for the bigger one. I'm gonna get a shot from underneath as well, but as you can see, that is there. The piping up to the blower and everything is all in place. Fan and radiator drop back down. Now I'd be lying if I said that wasn't a bit of a pain in the butt to get the pipe through there. I kind of had creative, like I said, lift the radiator up to give some space, slide it through, and then kind of like figure out how to work the clamps through one at a time, and then obviously swap these pieces so that you have the bigger one at the bottom so it's not getting squeezed by the fan and the shroud, because it is, you know, tight right there where it fishes through. But that being said, it can fit. It's you know, you can't really get too much more narrow than that. The fan placement, obviously, like even if we inverted them, you'd have the same kind of clearance issue on that side. So one side's got to be tight no matter what, and I think if it had to be one, it should be this side. Look how much room we already have, and we're not even back together yet, so major improvement so far, to say the least. Finished getting the piping back together on the car. Figured I'd go ahead and show you how it all looks now that it's coming together and installed. And as you can see, there's a ton of space that's created by throwing one of these suckers in your stock setup. Now, this would definitely be crucial for anyone wanting to run a thicker radiator, wanting to do like an 8-rib kit, and you're just running out of room with the stock fan. This eliminates a lot of the problems that you would have with that. Again, I would still recommend considering a tubular radiator support, or even like low profile, like I know sometimes they have just the brackets. Those would definitely help make even more space for you, but this alone will make so much room for you guys. So if you ever have a pipe blow off, it's super easy to reach everything. I literally was able to get the clamp at the bottom of this rubber section where it meets the first hard pipe down here from the top of the car. Like, that's ridiculous. You know what I mean? So absolutely major improvements in terms of under the hood workspace. So I do want to try and get the car back up again so I can get you guys a good shot from underneath so you can see kind of how the piping sits around the fan shroud. Underneath the car here, as you can see, the piping does clear. Pretty much snugs right through, or snakes right through. It is basically wedged almost between the radiator and the support here. Again, tubular would be even more beneficial, but I'll leave that up to you guys. Everything else is clearing. This side has tons of room. So you can see that there's like a finger width and more there. It's touching here, so theoretically if you had false knock, this would be a good spot to look. You could try and stick a piece of foam in there or something, but kind of depend on the car. I mean, you have plenty of space to work with everything and do what you need to do, so big improvements. All right, guys, so there you have it. That's the Slim Fan Shroud install wrapped up. I showed you guys how to do the wiring on them. That will basically keep it so that they work like factory fans and you don't have to worry about any tuning adjustment or anything of that sort. I'm gonna put all the details in the description below. But the big thing I think I didn't mention before, and I wanna make sure to clarify, when I'm selling these shrouds to you guys, I am not including the fans, and that's for a reason. That's to save you all money, because then you can go out, shop around, find the best deal you can find on either the SPAL or the Meradyne fans and go from there. It would cost more in shipping and just not be worth it to try and include the fans for you guys, because we have the part numbers. It's super easy to Google them and find what works best for you. Plus, I'm not trying to stock all this stuff around the house. I got enough to deal with already. So yeah, if you guys are interested in fan shrouds, definitely reach out to me on Instagram, or you could probably reach out to me on my Facebook business page, BS Express Performance. That would be the best way to reach me. Don't try and contact me on YouTube to try and get an order going. If there's something that, if you're looking to get one, it's not going to be a good, advantageous place to go through things. Should be able to get you guys taken care of if this is something you're in the market for. Absolutely recommend it for all my Paxton Vortech guys. I mean, it's inexpensive and just makes life so much easier. Hopefully you all are excited about the Slim Fan having a unique solution. That's one of the things that I was looking forward to try and doing for you all, was just providing something that, like, I know personally I've always wanted to try and find something like this, but there's just not any solutions out there for us, the Paxton Vortech people. So hopefully you all appreciate what I've done and worked on for so long to get into you all's hands, to try and improve your cars as well. Either way, let me know what you guys think of everything in the comments below. Again, definitely consider subscribing if you're new here. Try to do cool stuff and share products with you guys that we appreciate on the cars, and show you guys the builds that we do around here. So thanks again for checking the video out. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it, and I think that's gonna do it. So peace out. I will catch you in the next one.